Individuals lacking an internal monologue tend to exhibit inferior verbal memory capabilities. Greetings, everyone. Today's video focuses on an intriguing discovery made by researchers. They have uncovered a fascinating phenomenon: the absence of an inner voice in some individuals, which can have an impact on their verbal memory. This condition, known as anendophasia, presents a unique challenge for these individuals when it comes to expressing their thoughts in words. A recent study delved into this topic and found that those without an inner voice faced difficulties in tasks that required verbal repetition, such as word recall or identifying rhyming words. However, interestingly enough, they did not exhibit any notable differences in tasks involving task switching or visual pattern recognition. The implications of lacking an inner voice in everyday life and therapy are still under investigation. Without any further delay, let us now dive into our discussion. In the past, there was a widespread belief that possessing an internal monologue was a characteristic shared by all humans. However, in recent times, scientists have come to realize that this phenomenon is not experienced by everyone. As stated by Johanna Nedergaard, a postdoc and linguist at the University of Copenhagen, individuals who experience the absence of an inner voice find the condition to be challenging and time-consuming, as they are required to invest significant time and effort in converting their thoughts into verbal expressions. According to some individuals, they have a thinking process that involves visual images, which they then translate into words when they need to communicate. On the other hand, some describe their brain as a highly efficient computer that doesn't process thoughts in a verbal manner, and their connection to speaking and listening differs from that of others. Meanwhile, those who claim to have a verbal inner dialogue often describe it as words without any accompanying sound. Johanna Nedergaard and her colleague Gary Lupian from the University of Wisconsin-Madison are the pioneering researchers who have embarked on the first ever investigation into the potential implications of this lack of inner voice, which they have termed anendophasia. They aim to determine whether this condition has any impact on problem-solving abilities and performance in verbal memory tasks. Individuals who indicated a significant presence or absence of inner dialogue in their daily lives were enrolled in two separate experiments. The purpose of the first experiment was to assess their capacity for retaining language input, while the second experiment focused on their ability to identify words that rhymed. In the first experiment, participants were tasked with memorizing a sequence of words that shared phonetic or spelling similarities such as bought, caught, taught, and wart. According to Johanna Nedergaard, the task at hand poses a challenge for everyone, but their hypothesis suggests that it might be even more challenging for individuals without an inner voice. This is because the repetition of words inside one's head is crucial for remembering them. The veracity of this hypothesis was confirmed. Individuals lacking an internal monologue demonstrated a notable decline in word recall ability. This was also evident in a task that required participants to discern if a pair of images depicted rhyming words, such as a sock and a clock. In this scenario, the ability to repeat the words was essential for assessing their phonetic similarity and determining if they rhymed. In the pursuit of understanding the impact of the inner voice on task switching and differentiating similar figures, Johanna Nedergaard and Gary Lupian conducted two additional experiments. Surprisingly, no disparities were observed between the two groups, despite previous research suggesting that language and the inner voice do influence these types of experiments. According to Johanna Nedergaard, individuals who do not possess an internal monologue may have simply acquired alternative methods of cognition. For instance, some individuals have reported utilizing their index finger for one type of task and their middle finger for another type of task. The findings from the study conducted by the two researchers have recently been released in an article titled "Not Everybody Has an Inner Voice: Behavioral Consequences of Anendophasia" in the esteemed scientific journal Psychological Science. Johanna Nedergaard emphasizes that the variances in verbal memory discovered during their experiments are unlikely to be apparent in typical casual conversations. This begs the question, is there any practical or behavioral importance to not possessing an inner voice? We currently lack a definitive answer to this question due to the limited amount of research conducted on the topic. However, there is one area where it is suspected that the presence of an inner voice plays a significant role: therapy. Cognitive behavioral therapy, for instance, requires individuals to identify and modify negative thought patterns, and it is believed that having an inner voice is crucial in this process. Nevertheless, it remains uncertain whether variations in the experience of an inner voice impact how individuals respond to different therapeutic approaches. Johanna Nedergaard, who aims to further her research, intends to investigate whether the absence of an inner voice affects other language-related regions of the brain. In her conclusion, she reflects on the experiments that revealed disparities between the groups, specifically pertaining to sound perception and the ability to internalize words. Her curiosity now lies in determining whether these differences stem from a lack of experiencing the auditory dimension of language or a complete absence of linguistic thinking, unlike the majority of individuals. Johanna Nedergaard and Gary Lupien conducted a study involving nearly 100 participants, with half reporting minimal inner voice and the other half reporting a significant inner voice. The scientific journal Psychological Science recently published a study that involved the participants engaging in 4 different experiments. These experiments included tasks such as memorizing words in a specific order and transitioning between various tasks. The absence of an inner voice, referred to as anendophasia by Johanna Nedergaard and Gary Lupien, signifies the condition of not having an internal dialogue. To support our channel's growth and ensure broader awareness, kindly hit the like and subscribe buttons. This will help us reach more individuals and disseminate valuable information. Thank you in advance.